Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Rotoworld Football Show, Thursday, November 13th, 2025. This year, which has barely just started, is almost over. Week 11 has not yet started. It's not going to get going with a bang. That's because it's going to be Jets-Patriots. We have no idea what happened in that game. We're assuming it was very bad. Denny and I previewed it on Tuesday. Lord only knows what kind of rug pull Travion Henderson had in store in that game. But we're looking ahead to Sunday and maybe even Monday. The Raiders and Cowboys play on Monday. That promises to be a you-know-what show, hopefully a fun one at least. Before that, we got a lot of really good games. The Bills at the Bucs, the Bucs at the Bills. Two teams kind of in desperation mode, relatively speaking. They're still in solid playoff footing, but just not playing their best football. A rematch of one of the craziest games of the year, Week 1. J.J. McCarthy's one good quarter. He gets to try to do 2 through 5 now against the Chicago Bears in Minnesota. Game total, 48.5. Eagles, Lions, a huge game. Big week, a lot of big matchups, guys. A lot of big injury news. Bucky Irving, we'll talk about later on in the show. But, normally I don't try not to share our private correspondence, especially without your guys' permission. But earlier today, we're all party.
Whatever it is. Never. No.
We're all party to a group text where our good friend, our good mutual friend, Patrick Crane, was basically like, guy, you don't understand. They're going to break my legs if he doesn't play this week. Bucky. Yeah. What do you have any insight? Is he going to play? They're in my driveway. They said I got 2 more hours. All right.
I was worried about him.
I was too. And then we all just hit it with the ha reaction.
Right.
I actually put a crying, laughing emoji reaction.
But
and he said he wasn't joking. Then I had to go charge my phone. I don't know what he said after that. But.
I mean, I when I got that, I actually was like, should I call him? Like, is this something where he needs to talk to somebody? And I want to say, Crane, if you're listening. I'm in the exact same position.
I am in the also exact same. There's so many general contractors for Christmas traditions in my yard. A lot of them, I could have sworn the Better Business Bureau shut down one of these guys, but he's out here still. A lot of equipment in my yard. Doesn't look very safe. He's not wearing a hard hat.
I just got off an 8-hour shift at the Christmas store in my backyard, and this is part of the deal.
Oh no, and there's some dignity in that. At least there's dignity. At least having a job. So that's good.
Sure.
Be so much more dignified if Bucky plays. Oh my God, it's our first game actually. Bucs at Bills. Bucky Irving season. 2 good teams in midst of a mid-season funk. Denny Carter. They're squaring off in Buffalo with a 47.5 game total. Bills roughly 5.5 point favorite. Seems very charitable for a team that just lost to the Miami Dolphins. But these things happen in the NFL. It's a crazy league. It looked like the Bills were clicking into form for the stretch run when they beat down the Chiefs in Week 9. But yeah, then last week happened against the Dolphins. Same question for me every week. Is something wrong here? And which Bills are we actually starting with what it appears to be Dalton Kincaid sidelined against the Bucs?
Yeah, so the main difference from Josh Allen's perspective is that he's being sacked a lot, which is really weird and out of character for him, over the past 3 to 4 years. So he's been sacked on 19% of his pressures this season. That's not crazy high, but it's way higher than usual. Last year that was 8%. The year before that it was 10%.
That's his highest rate since his second year in the NFL. So he is looking in some capacity, in this specific capacity, both sack rate and pressure to sack rate, like pre-MVP caliber Josh Allen. He's still playing awesome football, but that is one, Denny, meaningful change that I think it's important that you pointed out.
Right. I mean, if you just look at the games, the recent games for Josh Allen, two weeks ago against Kansas City, he was sacked on 38% of his pressures. That's a problem. I mean, it's not just for him, but for the whole offense. I think you see him flinging it downfield to that guy Tyrell Shavers and
Curtis Samuel, man, he will run around behind the line of scrimmage for 8 seconds, which when you're watching, it doesn't sound like a lot. When you're watching a football play, a 6-second time to throw feels like, and is, an eternity. And I watched him do that to Curtis Samuel. And I mean, it worked because Josh Allen's awesome. You can buy time for any of these goobers. But sorry, I keep interrupting you, but I wrote about this week too. And we're so in lockstep that this is such a weird, and I think I blame the weapons a little bit, change for Josh Allen.
For sure.
Denny, cook, but don't.
But I feel like those downfield shots are like a silent protest for Josh Allen against the horrible receivers that he has. I mean, these guys are terrible. Khalil Shakir is not a wide receiver one, but he is here. Anyway, who are we starting? Keon Coleman got away with it last week. I want to point out the Bills had 450 air yards last week. That's double their weekly average on the season. So, in other words, you need something crazy to happen for Keon Coleman to get there. So I think that you could probably ignore him. I guess it's probably Dawson Knox as a streamer with Dalton Kincaid out, and it's Khalil Shakir. I don't really know who else to say here. Maybe Palmer. I don't know.
Well, Knox is weird. Tight end at the top is not very deep. Tight end 1 to 25 is probably the deepest I've ever seen it. There's a lot of kind of decent floor streamers to no ceiling. Dawson Knox is probably still just in that 22 to 25 range. But I will say Josh Palmer, I always forget how much of a deep threat he is. Maybe he'll help spark his Bills passing attack a little more than expected. Josh Palmer and Bill, we are keeping our eye on this weekend. Kyle, the Bucs, how locked into starting lineups are Tez Johnson and K-Dot, and two guys that, listen, we did not go into the season with plans to start these guys. We've been doing it for several weeks now. Chris Godwin has resumed practicing. So is Bucky Irving, which we will get to in a minute. I would be shocked if Chris Godwin played in this game, though. Where does that leave Tez? Where does that leave Cade?
Yeah, among the Chris Godwin and Bucky Irving returns, Irving seems like a true 50-50 maybe. I would still say you should probably expect Chris Godwin to maybe miss one more game. If he does miss one more game, I think Cade Otton is pushing for a tight end 1 ranking. He, like he did last year once they lost both Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, is really starting to pick up these target dominant games. Since week 6, he has a 24% target share, averaging a little over 12 fantasy points per game. Not doing a ton, 12 fantasy points per game PPR is fine. It's on that tight end 1-2 border, but look, he's a player who's free right now, and you can slot him in as a comfortable starting fantasy tight end. Tez Johnson, I'm a little more worried about starting, specifically because he just does not earn a lot of targets. He has 1 game this year over a 15% target share, but you can always put him in your lineup and hope that one of his 4 targets is a long touchdown, because he is good at that. Even if he's not earning a lot of targets, he does earn high-value targets from a really accurate, deep-throwing quarterback in a game with a reasonably high total of 47.5. But I don't know. To me, he is just stuck in that boom bust wide receiver 5 range, even though I believe he scored twice last week.
He is more like the wide receiver 4. If you're sitting down and really going through the rankings, by the way, top 48 equals wide receiver 4. It's pretty grim out there after wide receiver 40. I have him around wide receiver 40. One thing I'll add on Tez is that usually where there's floor, there's ceiling. He has been shockingly consistent on the 4 catch, 40 to 45 yard front, scoring every other game. I feel at some point you'd have to draw 9 or 10 targets, maybe actually spike a week. But as you said, it has not happened yet. Denny, you broke down the Bucs backfield on Tuesday. We did not think that was going to include Bucky Irving because we got Todd Bowles, who hasn't been very expansive on the injury front. I was like, I don't know. I don't know if he's ever going to play. And then he played
yeah, it was
apparently limited again on Thursday. I sort of fear it's maybe just a ramp up for week 12, 2 huge games. It's the Bills, then the Rams. But then again, if he gets in 3 limited practices and he feels good, it's not like he's not going to play. So try to point people in the right direction on this Bills backfield. What do you expect to happen with Bucky Irving? Is he going to play? What happens if he does play?
Can we talk for a second about how Bucs reporters had to get grainy, Bigfoot-like photos of someone who looked like Bucky Irving?
The first photo, it was legitimately unclear if it were Bucky.
100% unclear.
So, oh my gosh, why do reporters have no access to these teams?
It's not have better phones. I don't know.
I saw a shot of the reporter getting the shot. I believe it was Greg Allman. Apologies if it was one of the other Bucs reporters.
It was.
Actually had
Rick Stroud had the Bigfoot shot. Greg Allman literally took a picture through a pair of binoculars.
Okay, so if this is the one I'm remembering, it was Rick Stroud. He has an incredible lens on his camera, on his regular iPhone, where he is souping up his iPhone to get these 100-yard shots of almost anonymous players because they're so far away.
Yeah, just let him cover the team. Just let him cover the team. Anyways, Denny, as you were saying.
What do we have here? Yeah. So Rashad, just to break down what this Bucs backfield has looked like recently with Bucky Irving out, in case he doesn't play. If he plays, I think you kind of got to play him. It's a really
believe me, you got to play him. That's what I'm hearing. That's it.
Yeah.
I'm in quote big trouble if I don't play him. So
we're all playing him. It's a good matchup against a run funnel Bills defense. I'm actually writing up this game for my matchup piece that'll go up on the site on Friday if folks want to check that out. But Rachaad White over the past 2 weeks, 23 rushes to 21 rushes for Sean Tucker. They're splitting the inside, the 10 work, 50-50 right down the middle. White has run 53% of the routes. Tucker is at 16%. So you know what happens. Like if this team falls behind, it's all Rachaad White pretty much. If not, Sean Tucker is a huge thorn in Rachaad White's side, and could be viable if you think the Bucs will have game script on their side and Bucky Irving is out. There's a lot of things still to happen. Keep it locked to Rotoworld for the latest.
Keep it locked. Tucker, kind of an ultimately uninspiring second flex, despite how good the matchup is. And Rachaad White, they said there couldn't be an even less inspiring Travis Etienne. They were wrong. His name is Rachaad White. It has been 10 weeks since the Minnesota Vikings stunned the Bears in week 1 in Chicago. #one good quarter. Now they face off in Minnesota. The Vikes operating as field goal home. I got to keep double checking. The Vikings are favored against someone. All right. Despite their shaky recent play and the Bears winning streak, it's been against a soft slate of teams, I must say. Kyle, we will start where we always do. Are there any positives with J.J. McCarthy's recent play, or could this get worse before it gets better? What does it mean for the Vikings skill core? I will say this is a much easier matchup than JJ's dealt with the past 2 weeks.
It is a good matchup, and I do think last week, I don't know if this is a change, right? Like we look at 1 week samples and we try and say like, oh man, this one game changed everything about football. And typically it's not that drastic of a change.
Or say this one quarter against the Bears defense in week 1.
Yeah, really. Last week though, I will say it was not a good game from JJ McCarthy, but one thing we have pointed out with his game in a limited sample, but throughout the year, is that he is maybe the worst quarterback in the NFL at handling pressure. Going into last week, he had the highest pressure to sack rate in the NFL. He actually handled pressure in terms of not taking sacks pretty well. It was actually extremely well last week, like a 5% pressure to sack rate. The thing is, if in that one game sample played great, you have to look at the totality of the season, and playing one great, specifically in that aspect, he played quite poorly in other aspects. In that aspect, it still only brings him to second to last in the NFL in pressure to sack rate, trailing only Cam Ward. Not last. Look, not last, and not last is improvement because he was last 4 last week. But again, looking at the totality, he is last in the NFL in EPA per play. I believe he's second to last in completion percent over expected. The only maybe good thing is he is kind of capable of making some big time throws. And I think in terms of how that's affected Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, they've both lost about 3 or 4 fantasy points per game in games with JJ McCarthy. It honestly feels like it could be worse. Like they could be losing 4, 5, 6 fantasy points per game, but once every 2 or 3 drives, he does make a decent throw. And of course, typically Justin Jefferson comes down with it. Last week, he was definitely not putting it.
Yeah, Kyle, when he makes a good throw, it's like a really good throw, I would say.
Right. It is like he's got like a lively arm, but like the game has just seemed far too fast for him in a number of ways, in the way that he handles pressure, in the way that like he is mistiming a lot of these throws, and the way that his wide receivers might hate him. So to me, you are still playing Justin Jefferson, you're still playing Jordan Addison, but I'm still left at the point where you have to lower your expectations for them.
I have done that in the rankings where I put Justin Jefferson as the wide receiver 12. Maybe that feels reactionary. It's also still saying you're clearly playing him. It's just, I really think the floor has gotten that low. The ceiling has not disappeared. Jordan Addison is boom bust in the best of times. So it stands to reason he's going to take a pretty big hit when the quarterback is then even more boom bust. I've Jordan Addison, that wide receiver, 3-4 borderline. And just to everything you just said, I feel like JJ, we got like a Trevor Lawrence thing in the making where there's going to be cut ups where like if Justin Jefferson was 2 feet taller. Like, or why isn't Justin Jefferson 2 feet taller for his quarterback? He should have been and brought this down. But Denny, it looked like you were going to jump in there, but should I just ask you your scripted question instead?
Yeah, let's do the scripted.
Well, Denny, can you make sense, let's see here, of what is starting to feel like a never-ending Bears skill core rotation? Who is in favor? Who is out? Who is healthy? Who's actually hurt? Like, I don't know. DJ Moore confuses me, for instance. Give people the lay of the land in this Bears receiver core.
Like JJ McCarthy, I thrive on scripted questions. So I actually think that this game environment could be fun. And
Yep. I know they updated StreamYard, but right there is where you do it. Yeah,
you're gonna cut it so hard later. It's crazy. Like I have something here that literally, like you're gonna just delete the show.
Well, hopefully he has to leave before then, Kyle.
If we just filibuster this show, he won't.
He's gonna get like a quote unquote doctor's appointment or something later.
These are the 2 worst teams against the deep ball by like a good margin. Okay, however you cut it, right? So no, it could be ugly, like lots of dinks and dunks, and then over the top to Jefferson, to Addison, to Odunze. I think this is quietly a fun game potentially. Could have a lot of splash plays. So let me talk about just Odunze real quick, because where do I have it? Yes, Odunze is 5th among all wide receivers in air yards over the past 3 weeks. He's 15th in actual yards because Caleb can't connect. Maybe we see Luther Burden get a bump in playing time with Olamide Zaccheaus having the worst game of all time last week.
Ben Johnson talked about too a little bit at getting, I don't know if he named Burden specifically. He might have getting Burden some more work. So I'm hopeful. Every time he touched the ball, it looks super explosive. And then they're like, you're getting 10 snaps next week instead of 11, even though he feels like he should earn 30.
Zaccheaus had like a career threatening game last week. I covered the game, and I mean, he had 3 drops, but really he probably had 4. Like, it depends on how generous you want to be. Like a catastrophic game. They're lucky they won. The six drop passes last week. Caleb did nothing wrong, is what I'm saying. Wow. But yeah, Odunze's real fun, I think, in this game against a Vikings defense that gets roasted deep.
And hopefully, the Bears defense can get something going for JJ McCarthy, at least for the sake of Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. Kyle, last week, I made a bet that the Monangai thing was real. I ranked him ahead of DeAndre Swift. I wish I were kidding. He had already been building towards a 50% snap share. Then he had the Dowdle game in Swift's absence. But I totally underestimated how into Ben Johnson's good graces DeAndre Swift had gotten. He returned to his normal role. He was by far the preferred back. Monangai thankfully scored a touchdown. I will not be ranking him ahead of DeAndre Swift this week. Do you have anything to add to the Bears backfield situation?
I think when you said they returned to the normal roles, that about lacing out perfectly. Swift out carried Monangai 13-8, out snapped him 39-25. Swift ran the majority of the routes. He saw the teams only inside the 5 carry. It is what we've come to expect when DeAndre Swift is healthy, or at least close enough to healthy to be playing. He's the lead back. It is a true committee, and Monangai is a flex adjacent play. But this team is 3-point underdogs on the road. I agree. Kind of shocked McCarthy gets to be favored in this game, but I'm not going to go against Vegas. They are 3-point underdogs on the road, and he's the backup running back. He's barely a flex play, and Swift is probably a pretty solid play.
He very much is. Denny, what about Aaron Jones? Is it Aaron Jones' season? It seemed like they want it to be. A game script is making it problematic for that to be the case.
This Bears defense is not good.
No, it's real bad. That's just probably why they're not favored in the road.
I mean, the Giants last week were just doing whatever they wanted against the Bears until the concussion for Jackson Dart. So just keep that in mind. It's why I think McCarthy is live as a streamer in 14-team leagues, things of that nature. But the rush defense for the Bears has improved somewhat, but they are still allowing a top 10 rate of rush yards before contact. Over the past 5 weeks. Last week, Aaron Jones had 9 rushes to 5 rushes for Jordan Mason. Jones ran 30 routes to only 8 routes for Mason. So we know what's up here. And Jordan Mason is a contingency back only, I think, at this point.
This is a really fun prove-it game. But got to see some progress from J.J. McCarthy. And the Bears, they've been feasting on a soft schedule. You could say this is a continuation of that. They have to win a divisional game on the road. Really, really interesting game. Good time to take a break. We'll be right back after this. The Eagles are back in primetime as they host Jared Goff and the Lions on Sunday Night Football in Week 11. Coverage of the pivotal NFC Showdown begins at 7 p.m. Eastern. Plus, don't forget to get the day started on Fantasy Football pregame with Matthew Berry, Jay Croucher, and Lawrence Jackson, who will be live in Philadelphia at 11 a.m. Live in Philly. I feel like that wouldn't go well for the three of us. There'd somehow be someone who remembered something like, Denny said Jalen Hurts was bad in 2021. He'd be like, he was. And then
Philly fans hated last year when I told them that AJ Brown just wants to rack up stats. And as if that's a bad thing, as if guys who go for 1,500 yards are not awesome football players and contribute a lot to their team. And instead they took it as he's a quitter or whatever. He's not. He just wants to destroy the lives of quarterbacks, and they freaked out about it. And I'm right, obviously.
You were right.
Anyway, next topic. Go ahead. I'm fine.
And they poured a Yingling on Denny's head. Coming off 2 very different Week 10 wins, the Lions and Eagles are doing Philly battle with a 46.5 game total and a narrow Eagles spread, Kyle. I asked Denny on Tuesday what he thought the difference was with the Lions before and after Dan Campbell assumed play calling duties. It's one game. It's a really, really bad Commanders defense. But what stood out to you in week 10 as they head into a much tougher matchup with the Eagles?
Yeah, I'll tackle what you guys talked about just in a slightly different way. Denny talked about their pass rate over expected. You talked about more the mentality that is emblematic of is that they were not trying to boat race every single opponent, which, as you pointed out, just do that. Why would you not want to drop 50 on every opponent you play? I just don't get it. Like, it's so frustrating to watch a team like the Packers who, like, they have their struggles, but I really do think maybe not 50. They could put up 30 every week if they really cared to do so. They just don't. And it seemed like the Lions were still a very good offense through 9 weeks, but didn't quite have that extra level of edge. And we saw that in week 10. When they were playing from ahead, they threw on 51% of their plays. That was only 47% in the first 9 weeks. They stayed pat at 51% pass rate when they were winning by 10 plus points in week 10. That was down at 44% in the first.
Run them out of the building.
So there are plenty of other things that you could point to, and we'll talk about one of them in a minute. But to me, as you guys pointed out, that was one of the biggest changes, is that they still kept their foot on the gas. I believe at their core, and this is true of Dan Campbell, he wants to run the football, but he wants to be effective and understands that he has a really good passing game, where they were a little bit too dogmatic about running the football in the first 9 weeks of the season, even if they did it well, and they also passed the ball well. I think we'll like this version of the Lions more.
Speaking of liking this version of the Lions more, Denny and I sure liked it. J-Mo, as they were known, called a cheat code by Jared Goff over the middle of the field. It's almost like they should have thought of that before. It's almost like that's what Denny and I were thinking of over the summer when we were completely
That's right.
And Jameson Williams and the Lions were wrong, so wrong that they've demoted the OC, Kyle. So this is a guest topic from producer Adam. It says, Kyle, where's your God now, Jameson Williams? Where's your God now,
Let me just step
Williams?
out of my mansion. Let me look past all the Lambos and the Ferraris I picked up along the first 9 weeks of the year when he's like the wide receiver 50 overall. Let me peer through those with my gold-laden binoculars. And I don't know, it does look pretty good for him. Like, he's going to get to make it a race at the end of the season, because it was not a close race. He was a terrible pick for the first 2 months of the year. I think I might still come away with the victory, but like, I'm sweating. He had not a really good role, but he had a role that is what you guys would have hoped he would have had. It just took 2 months, but it's a legit role. A 23% target share would be his third highest target share of the year. He had a 10.3 ADOT, which was way up from especially the first month of the season. I don't say they had no clue what to do with him, but they just pigeonholed him into the go route specialist. In the first month of the year specifically, he had a 20.5 ADOT. That is, unprecedented levels of just running wind sprints. To me, if he continues this role, and he also jumped his first read target share as well. If he continues this role, he's going to make it a race on whether he was a good pick or not by the end of the year. And specifically, one thing that like Film Bros pointed out, but you can also back it up in the data, is they just made such better use of his speed. He caught all of his passes on what I was going to call like 2 different kinds of routes: stop or hitch routes, where he just threatens the Commanders' awful defense with his 4.3 something speed, and then just stops and leaves a cornerback sprinting downfield while he's wide open. Or these crossing routes right over the middle of the field. Goff is perfect at hitting that route in stride. And J-Mo, with the ball in his hands in stride, is unstoppable. It's why he had such a good game. And it's specifically what Jared Goff talked about. It's a few players can do this extremely well. To me, it's like one of George Pickens' strong suits too. He's good on the boundary, but he is so fast when he is moving that I love when they do that with him. It was something like Odell Beckham did in his prime as well. J-Mo is not a complete player, but the things he does well, he does really well. And if, like I said, if they end up accentuating this over the next month and a half, I'm gonna eat it a little bit.
It's what the Chiefs hope Xavier Worthy can eventually do. And yeah, all kidding and bit aside, it really seemed to be one of the main reasons. Dan Campbell seemed, I think, specifically frustrated that they were not utilizing Jameson Williams more. And money where his mouth is for one game, much tougher matchup against the Eagles. The Eagles now know the adjustment that the Lions have made. Like, oh wow, we have to take J-Mo more seriously. They're not just giving him shot plays down the field. So this would be a big test for Jameson Williams, but just such a more dynamic Lions offense last week. Just a much more multi-dimensional, much more 2024 looking version of the Lions, Denny Carter. So the Eagles are going to have to match points with this team. At least we think. The Eagles, they love the rock fight. They love to slow it down. That was also particularly grim on Monday night where, 10-7, the final in Green Bay. Really at no point did it seem like the Eagles were going to lose, except for when they made the most catastrophically dumb fourth down decision in the history of football at the end of the game. Where am I going with this? So we already asked you about the Eagles on Tuesday a lot. About 2 more days to think about it. Is there anything you feel good about with this team right now, other than it seems like they can kind of do what they want to do most of the time, and it doesn't matter, even if it makes us cry real tears in fantasy football?
Yeah. You gave me 2 more days to think about it. I've thought about nothing else. And I came away with this. This Eagles offense is totally different against man coverage than it is against zone coverage. They played a zone-heavy Packers defense last week. We saw what happened. This week, they go against a Lions defense playing the second highest rate of man coverage. So I think this game, because of that specifically, I think this game has shootout potential because the Eagles can actually get it done.
It used to be a sport
through the air. I have some Hurts splits, some Hurts cope, if you want to call it that. He's second in the league in adjusted yards per attempt versus man coverage this year. He's 8th most accurate against man coverage. Against zone, he's 22nd in adjusted yards per attempt and 21st in accuracy. I think he can cook. I think A.J. Brown can get involved if he wants to. We don't know how his mood will be come Sunday, but we'll see. And so I have a good feeling about
Denny, on that point, I feel like A.J. Brown almost needs to be suspended for conduct detrimental to the team. Like, it's getting kind of bad.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, I mean, he's run his course in Philly, and it's probably over for that marriage. But I wanted to say about Lions OC John Morton. I knew it was over for Morton because if folks don't know, he got play calling taken away from him. Dan Campbell said, "I'm the captain now. We're going to score points now."
They did,
and I knew it was over for Morton when he changed his name from Johnny to John. So in public, and I was like, "Oh no!" Like something.
When did this happen? When did this happen?
I don't know. Like I had like a month ago. I was like,
real bad.
Like he's like, "Oh, they're not taking me seriously because they call me Johnny, right? But they'll take me more seriously if they call me John." His main mistake was just trying not to score points, and
that was, I feel like, an even bigger mistake than going by Johnny. Be a big mistake to belabor this Eagles point. If you want to hear even more about it, we talked about it at length on Tuesday. Coming off their bye week, the Cowboys face a Raiders team that might as well have been on bye in week 10, Denny. What kind of matchup is this for a Cowboys passing attack that has mostly shredded everything in its path? I could see them wanting to take a sabbatical and feature the run this week. Hopefully they do not do that. You can do kind of whatever you want to do against the Raiders. Yeah. How's this looking for the Dallas passing attack?
The Raiders pass defense is not horrible. But teams tend to lean toward the pass against them. They really don't try to establish it. The Raiders, despite having Max Crosby with 3 X's, they don't have a great pass rush. Like they don't pressure the passer at a high rate. So Dak should have time to sit in the pocket and sort of pick them apart. I mean, there's not much to say. I mean, you're starting Pickens, starting Lamb, starting Ferguson, Ferg Daddy, Fergie. What are we calling him? I forget.
Fergalicious, maybe.
Fergalicious. You're starting
Fergalicious definition.
There you go. And that's it. I mean, you're not. Don't get weird with any of the other guys.
Please do not get weird with Fergie. Sorry. Kyle, Brock Bowers' faceplant was maybe the single most painful fantasy performance of week 10. We've now seen the highest highs and the lowest lows. And let me see my notes. 2 weeks since his return. Like, would it really be that difficult maybe to split the difference? Apparently it is. What is truly realistic for Brock Bowers in this atrocious offense? Again, totally insane-o mode in week 9. And then I am going insane mode in week 10.
Dude, to your point, quite literally, I think it was 1 catch for 31 yards. Among fantasy started tight ends, it doesn't get much worse. There are guys who leave early or whatever. And of course, the week before that was, I believe, the most PPR points scored in a game this year. And of course, just please find a middle ground. Last week was maybe I don't want to say it was an anomaly, right? Because the Raiders are terrible. And last week they played a really good Broncos defense. The Raiders will continue to be terrible and they will face good defenses going forward. I do think Brock Bowers will probably not catch exactly 1 pass again at any point this year, but he might bust again this year because specifically, like I said, good defense on the schedule, really bad Raiders team. That does happen even to superstar players. The good thing is we just do not have to worry about that this week. Dallas ranks 30th in EPA per passing play allowed. They rank specifically 28th in yards per attempt to the slot, which is important for Bowers because with Jacoby Myers out, he was gone from the team last week and will continue to be gone because he's on the Jags. With Jacoby Myers off the team, Bowers ran a season high percentage of his routes out of the slot last week. Maybe that was also part of why he struggled and teams struggled to get him the ball is because they had to move him into not a completely different role. He plays a lot of slot snaps. They at least upped his amount of slot snaps to a point that hadn't happened any point this year. Maybe the change in role or change in how they're using him is going to take a week to figure things out. And of course, this week it should really settle itself in, as it's him and Trey McBride as the tight end 1 contenders.
So hopefully the change in matchup also suits.
Yeah, that should do it either way.
Brock Bowers very well. The Cowboys, if it were not for the Bengals, would be far and away the worst defense in the NFL. Denny, the Raiders pass catchers, is Tyler Lockett, quote, knows the systeming Trey Tucker, because he shouldn't be outproducing Trey Tucker, but he did last week. Anything to say about these Raiders pass catchers beyond Brock Bowers?
I thought this was the cut the mic special here. Yeah, because you asked me here, Raiders pass catchers beyond Bowers, and I was going to come and hit you with, well, Tyler Lockett.
You were going to hit me right square in the jaw with Tyler Lockett. There's still
time. You were
time.
going to say, cut this guy.
I've been hitting square in the jaw with Tyler Lockett for 10 straight years. You didn't think I was ready for this?
So, yeah. Look, I don't know what to say except for that he looks like the wide receiver 1.
Oh my god,
Denny, we watched JSN sit behind Tyler Lockett in the pecking order for targets. We have steel jaws for this type of stuff.
Yeah. So last week, Tyler Lockett 65% of the routes, 32% of the air yards, 22% of the targets. He led all Raiders wide receivers in targets per route run. He's back. We're back. Ooh. Are we back?
I don't actually. I mean, you had to rank him in the top 50. I did. I don't feel good about. I actually did rank Trey Tucker ahead of him still.
Really?
I feel like it was an anomaly. The Cowboys matchup is so good. I don't know.
I don't know, man. Like I feel maybe too good about starting Tyler Lockett in a 14-team sicko, like crazy 10 flex league.
It sounds like in both guaranteed prize pools and cash games in DFS, you're also starting Tyler Lockett, 100% exposure across the map.
Yeah, no, we're in on the young buck.
Wow. So Tyler Lockett, you heard it here first. Hopefully you very much heard it here last. Locked and pitched battle for the always competitive NFC West. Kyle Dvorchak, the Rams and Seahawks meet up in L.A. with a game total creeping near 50. I don't know if you can really say that about 48.5, but, it's kind of close.
I think that was fair.
Rams, they're narrow home favorites. Matt Stafford has been absolutely cooking. It's mostly been against pretty soft competition, though. What kind of test is this going to be for someone who's probably, honestly, the MVP frontrunner at this moment?
Yeah, I mean, you said he's been cooking against soft competition. Like, whether or not that's true, it doesn't matter this week. The 49ers are soft competition. They rank very lowly. Like, you wouldn't expect a team like the 49ers, who are well coached, specifically in the defensive side of the ball.
You mean the Seattle Seahawks is what you mean there.
Oh, sorry. Did I misread that one? Oh, yeah.
I have to fact check you there. They're playing the
Thanks for catching me in the middle of that. No, the Seahawks are good on defense. They're not super elite. They're certainly not the juggernaut maybe they were early in the year. They're 10th in EPA per dropback allowed. That's good.
You know what's happening though? They keep getting up 35-0, 28-0, and the other teams make their EPA look bad in the second.
Well,
half.
they really, to their credit, but also to discredit your point last year, they also super turbo giga juiced the EPA numbers by getting two sack fumbles last week for touchdowns, right? Last week. So, there's a give and take where I totally agree. Your numbers don't look as good when you get to be up 35 and you're like, let Jacoby get to 400 yards. They're not beating us, but they also beat them so bad early that it balances out. It's a tough matchup, but it's not a game-ending matchup. It's not one where I don't think, like you said, front runner for MVP Matthew Stafford can take advantage of it. I do think, especially the fact that the total, like you said, creeping to 50, I thought was perfectly fine categorization of it. They're 2.5-point favorites. I think they're the 4th or 5th highest team total of the week as well. It's not the best matchup. I'd rather see him play a team like the 49ers, for example. Imagine that. So I'd rather see him play a good matchup, but he's a QB1. I don't think almost anything will take him out of the QB1 ranks for the rest of the year.
I rank Stafford as a QB1. And what I will say, the Seahawks, speaking of soft schedule, it was Arizona, the Commanders, who were just getting blown out by everyone, the Texans, the Jaguars. They've gone a month without getting challenged. Last time they got challenged, they lost to the Bucs. I'm really interested in this game as a measuring stick game for both these teams. They look like they could maybe be the two best teams in the NFC. But yeah, we need to see them get challenged. Massive playoff implications in this game. So Denny, the Seahawks actually have to open up the passing attacks. I actually ranked Sam Darnold right on the QB1 periphery as well. I think he's attempted 36 total passes over the past 2 weeks because of these wonky game scripts. I feel like he's going to have to throw at least 30 times against the Rams.
Yeah.
Well, they have to open up this passing attack.
That sounds reasonable. The 30 number, that's not a ton. It's more than last week where he threw 12 passes. So that'd be better. But Seattle has been, I found this, I just have to share it with you guys and the listeners. Seattle has been over its expected pass rate once this season.
Once this decade.
In that game, right. Once since 1978. In that game, they were 0.1% over their expected pass rate. I bet you Mike McDonald was furious.
He probably was.
I'm
spreadsheets, actually.
I'm acting like any NFL coach ever has heard of pass rate over expected.
Mike McDonald has. He's a spreadsheet guy, which is maybe actually will be his downfall.
Yeah, best coach in the league outside of Dan Campbell. So Rams opponents have passed at a 64% neutral pass rate. That's the second highest in the league. So if it's ever going to happen, it might happen here. But I don't think you can bank on it. I mean, it's JSN season, always. Maybe Cooper Kupp gets involved if they have to drop back more than usual. But beyond that, I don't know if you.
Well, Rashid Shaheed will actually see some deep shots in this game. Last week,
I didn't mean to mention that. I just want to reiterate that he only ran 10 routes, Rashid Shaheed last week, but Sam Darnold only had 13 dropbacks. So that I think it was actually pretty good usage, all things considered.
These are two teams that's been kind of messing around. I'm excited to see them have to go like hammer and tongs at each other. That includes on the ground. They both ideally like to run. These like to be balanced offenses, Kyle. I don't know if fantasy managers appreciate the balance in the Seahawks backfield. Is it still status quo there? I see no reason to believe it's not.
Yeah, I mean, it is. The efficiency numbers have almost leveled off to the point where you can't even say Ken Walker should be earning more work. Early in the season, we were at least early in the season, I was like, I don't think the coaches will change their opinion, but I understand why people want to see more Ken Walker. At this point, I don't think he's averaging more yards after contact or more missed tackles forced than Zach Charbonnet. He's got a lower success rate than Zach Charbonnet. He is hitting way more home runs. He still has that calling card to his game, but that's the perfect player to give a carry at the 50-yard line. And they're not giving him carries inside the 5. Since week 3, that was the game that Zach Charbonnet missed. Since week 3, we have 8 carries for Zach Charbonnet inside the 5. He's converted 4 of them for touchdowns. We have 4, which isn't nothing, but we only have 4 for Ken Walker. He has not converted any one of them for a touchdown. They have, I believe it's 5 touchdowns since then. 5 touchdowns for Zach Charbonnet. 1 touchdown for third stringer George Halani, 1 rushing touchdown for tight end AJ Barner, and none for Ken Walker. He is just a committee back with the lowest possible value touches.
Did Kenneth Walker just run out of bounds and then into the ocean for some reason? Oh, wow, that seems strange. I bet that might cost him a few carries. Denny, it's been costing Kyron Williams a few carries, but Blake Corum's been performing well. Hasn't really mattered in fantasy so far, but how much is he really cutting into Kyron's workload?
Over the past 3 games, Kyron has 51 carries to 38 for Blake Corum. Kyron leads in routes 53-21. He has 6 targets over that span. So, I mean, neither of these guys are involved for PPR purposes. Corum has 1 target over those 3 games. And then over that 3-game stretch, Kyron has seen 70% of the inside the 10 carries. Corum's at 30%. I mean, like you said, Corum's involved. So Kyron doesn't have that insane workload that he had last year, but it's still enough. It's not a great matchup, but you got to play him.
It's still enough. It is the kind of thing where I feel like it could matter at some point. It's a bit surprising it hasn't mattered yet. Corum keeps seeing 10 to 12 carries. That will matter at some point. We'll just see. We're not expecting it to really matter this week, at least not in the rankings. Flailing as the Ravens surge in the AFC North, the Steelers and Bengals meet up in Pittsburgh, PA. With Aaron Rodgers and company, roughly 5-point favorites at home. I think it's 5.5. Denny Carter. The Steelers remain a team where we have almost nothing to say. Did that change following Sunday evening's loss to the Chargers? Boy, did they look bad. Aaron Rodgers, the guy used to be such a good athlete. Yeah. Now, it's like watching a guy in a rocking chair. It's pretty disturbing.
Yeah, I mean, some of these guys, these elder millennials, they play until their whole goal is not to get hit. And so we saw Tom Brady do this in his final year, where the whole game plan for the Bucs was.
Let me be clear: Tom Brady was Gen X, just for the record. Okay, born in '77, he was Gen X.
No, I get it, but Rodgers is now at that point where he's like, I just got to get rid of it, and that's not a real that's not like a real game plan.
It's no way to live a life.
No, it's not. So last time these teams played, Rodgers had 34 pass attempts. That was the 3rd highest total of the year for Rodgers. Steelers were slightly above their pass rate over expected in that game. I wanted to point out, look, I'm going to leave it up to the folks to do their own research, but Steelers tight ends split up 18 targets last time they played the Bengals. They went for 141 yards and 4 touchdowns in that game. So if you can identify the correct Steelers tight end, Jonnu Freiermuth, the big dude,
Darnell Washington, Cam Hayward's brother,
Heath Miller.
I mean, you could cook.
Steelers legend Ladarius Green, I believe he played for them after the Chargers.
He did.
Yeah, I'm right. Ladarius Green, a second flex this week. No, I'm kidding. But I favor Jonnu. But none of these guys are running enough routes to be confident.
No, they're not. Pat Freiermuth probably not reprising his 2 touchdown game from week 7. Jaylen Warren, even though I don't feel good about ever trusting Jaylen Warren, high-end option considering how bad this Bengals defense is on the whole. Kyle, Joe Flacco and company are dialed in versus the league's worst pass defense in terms of yardage allowed. This is me saying they're in our lineups. I couldn't sense my own tone here. What about Chase? What about Chase Brown? Samaje Perine not practicing with an ankle injury.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, in the lineups for sure. I mean, he's averaging 15.7 PPR points per game with Joe Flacco under center. That was a just pathetic 9.1 in the pre-Flacco games. He obviously didn't get much going on the ground versus the Bears last week. It's a shame because it's typically a good matchup for opposing running backs. Did not matter at all. 8 catches for 75 yards because even though he is not the first or second most important target on the team passes so much that sometimes the third target can really get home. And we saw this, like Noah Fant can pop up for a random game, like Andre Yoshibas can pop up for a random game. And Chase Brown is in the mix to be that third pass catcher in terms of target earning. And he's been pretty good since Joe Flacco, just in terms of the efficiency numbers as well, since Joe Flacco took over. Flirting with RB1 numbers. Maybe the only caveat here is 5.5-point underdogs. That's not the most favorable game script, but he just played really well with Flacco there.
He still feels like a rug pull waiting to happen to me. I mean,
Wait, who?
Chase Brown.
Wait, but if Perine doesn't play, the rug can't be pulled.
Who can even care? If Perine didn't play early in the season, he didn't do anything then either.
No. They didn't have Flacco under center. They didn't have the goal.
He's not scoring. I mean, he has 2 touchdowns in the past month.
Wait a second.
His carry, even as he's quote unquote been good, his carry counts are 11, 12, and 11.
There's no rug. There's no rug. If Perine is out, like that's a huge thing for him.
So let me be clear: you cannot bench him, but just be prepared for the rug pull.
I mean, he could run like 90% of the routes here, and Flacco's going to be checking down to this guy all day.
Speaking of rug pulls, Brock Purdy and Ricky Pearsall, after seemingly months of will they, won't they, the 49ers are claiming Brock Purdy and Pearsall will play on week 11 before they pull the rug. They're playing the Arizona Cardinals if they do play Kyle Dvorchak. That news comes as Arizona will be missing Marvin Harrison Jr. following his appendicitis operation, which, all right, whatever. Crazy stuff. But our focus here is San Francisco. What does this mean? Which Niners pass catchers can we actually start, et cetera, in a game where the total, it was 48.5 before Marvin Harrison Jr. was ruled out. It has now shifted all the way to 48.5. Tough stuff. Tough look for Marv. But tell us about the 49ers, who you tried to talk about earlier.
Yeah, I forgot about that. I mean, I do get the sense that this is, I guess you could, like, in theory, just say this every week that progresses. This is the closest Brock Purdy has been to playing.
They swear to God it's happening this time.
I know. But they are telling us, I think this even came straight from GM John Lynch, was saying they were like very aggressive with his practice reps this week, which they have been very conservative with his practice reps forever. I kind of think he plays, to be honest, for the pass catchers, it almost makes no difference. Sure, you would rather have Purdy. Mac Jones done a perfectly fine job. I'd be a little skeptical of Ricky Pearsall both playing a full-time role, earning targets this week, because now it seems like they have George Kittle back and humming. Christian McCaffrey's role isn't going anywhere. Jawan playing relatively well as he gets weeks and weeks removed from the 8 different injuries they listed him with on the injury report. You should have Ricky Pearsall stashed everywhere. He can pop for big games, but I'm probably not playing him in his first game back. I do think it's almost status quo for the rest of them.
Ricky Pearsall is going to go nuts in the biggest game like he did, I think, last week 18 after the fantasy season is over. That actually might have been week 17. I'm trying to burn him. I'm double checking right now. We don't have good games, but
yeah, it was the Lions week.
Oh, the Lions one where Kyle had like an all-time DFS death sweat in that one, or maybe it was best ball.
It was, but yes,
I remember texting with you from on my family farm. Denny, this becomes kind of a clown show for Arizona without Marvin Harrison Jr. What are Jacoby Brissett's prospects? It's Michael Wilson, it's Greg Dortch, and it's, of course, Trey McBride.
We have to listen to the bookmakers here who say there's no difference between a Cardinals offense with MHJ or without MHJ. Yeah, I mean, we got a report, I believe, on Wednesday that said Michael Wilson would see a full-time role. Greg Dortch will, I guess, be the main slot guy. I do want to mention that the Cardinals don't play a lot of 3 receiver sets, so keep that in mind.
Until recently, they did not even have 3 wide receivers on the team.
They play 3 receivers at 54% of their pass attempts. That's the 22nd. That's 22nd in the league. So Dortch could be kind of a flex in a 14-team league, but I think Michael Wilson is pretty interesting here. I like Jacoby a lot as a streamer. I mean, this
still like him. Even without Marv, really?
I have bad news for you. If you look at the total, you'll notice, put on your binoculars, hasn't moved since Marv.
There's zero difference to me with whether he's in or out. He's just a guy. He's just a guy running around.
I swear to God, I have a text from you like 48 hours ago where you're like, guys, it was all Kyler. He's actually really good. It was a 48 hours.
But then I looked at what he did with 12 targets last week, 3 catches, 33 yards. Yeah, I don't know.
I have Greg Dortch, I think, 1 spot ahead of Michael Wilson. Michael Wilson, someone I was pretty bullish on early in his career, just seems to be not good to me.
No, he's not. But so this Niners defense with all the injuries, their linebackers can't cover anybody. So like the short area guys, Trey McBride is going to see, I mean, I don't know, 20 targets, like something crazy.
Biblical.
It depends on game
Old
script,
Testament,
obviously.
To be clear, none of that New Testament stuff.
But I am maybe too bullish on Jacoby Brissett, who, by the way, has run very cold in the red zone. This is a get right.
Can't imagine.
I know, Pat.
Yeah,
I got this one.
Can't imagine
chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
We're all trying to find out why Jacoby Brissett, the career backup, was not good in the red zone.
I gotta find a way to introduce those running cold situations without setting you guys up for a dunk right on my head.
So you failed on
that. I basically turn you guys into Vince Carter in the Olympics, jumping over me and dunking.
Adam says, by the way, Trey McBride receiver prop catch total 7.5. Feel comfortable in the over there, I would say.
You are hammering the over.
Hammering the over. Are we hammering the Cardinals backfield, Kyle? They're kind of making it up as they go along. What's the latest here?
It's all bad. It's all garbage bad. I don't like it. I mean, the Cardinals haven't had a running back see over half of the team's total carries in back-to-back games since James Conner went down. That means every single week without fail, either a new player sees over half the carries or they don't have a player. They split it up so much that no one sees over half of the carries. Last week, it was Bam Knight. It looked like he had been demoted to like the Amari DiMercato passing downs role the week before that. The week before that, it was Bam Knight again. What are you doing playing a 1.5, maybe 1.5? If you get lucky, you get 1.5 downs as 2-point road underdogs on a team that is just going to pass insane amounts of volume and in turn not run the ball a lot in the Cardinals. I said road dogs, they're home dogs, but it doesn't matter.
No, it does not matter. This game does not matter. Which game was this? No, this game doesn't matter. We're moving on. Playing so poorly, they had to be sent to Spain. The Dolphins and Commanders meet up on the Iberian Peninsula with the Finns operating as neutral field favorites, Denny Carter. Well, that was a very surprising Week 10 performance against the Bills, to put it mildly. But did anything actually change for this Dolphins offense, and which Miami players are we actually starting in what is a very, very great matchup? Against the Commanders team that's been getting blown out so much, they went Campbell mode. Dan Quinn has taken over defensive play calling duties. How good is it for the Dolphins? Are we streaming Tua? Things of that nature.
It's a really good spot. I like this game in general. I like Marcus Mariota on the other side as well. If you're desperate for quarterback help or super flex, whatever. But yeah, 2 against Washington. Washington allowing the league's highest dropback success rate and by far the highest dropback EPA since Week 7. Just getting crushed by everybody. The Commanders allow the 6th highest completion rate over expected. I wanted to mention Malik Washington is running the 2nd most routes behind Jalen Waddle of late. And, well, here's the mic cut part, I guess. Greg Dulcich ran 80% of the routes last week. I'm just saying. I'm just stating
Albert Oakland, rise up. We will not lose this war.
Look, if you are down infinity at tight end, I guess you could do worse than Greg Dulcich.
You probably could still, maybe. Wow. Actually, I'm a little speechless at the mention of Greg Dulcich, who I have been a little speechless at his usage, though. Denny is not hallucinating things. He's been out there running routes and getting targets. Denny mentioned Mariota is a good streamer because this total is quote unquote only 47.5. Strong total. Could have honestly go way over that. How strong?
A high total for two backup quarterbacks.
That is true.
There?
Oh gosh.
I got
you did get me. How strong of a streamer is Marcus Mariota, Kyle?
So like we talked about, high total, a Miami defense that's just not very good. But I will say, like, they're a team that has been susceptible on the ground at times, and the Commanders would love to run the football in this game. In 4 Marcus Mariota starts, the team has had it's had pass rate over expected, but they're all negative. Well, 3 or 4 are negative. -8%, -6%, +7. Maybe there's some room there. -16% in his most recent start. They also play a little bit slower when Marcus Mariota in situation neutral. They play a little bit slower when Mariota's under center. Understandably so. Your awesome, I mean, he didn't play great this year, but in general, your awesome young quarterback goes out. You have a mobile but not particularly lively quarterback as the backup. You just run the football a lot and you play slower football. With that being said, he also gets in on the rushing game a little bit. He has at least 20 rushing yards in every start this year. He is a viable QB2. Maybe not the most exciting. They don't want him to throw the football, but if he's going to give you 20 rushing yards, that's already half a passing touchdown.
Denny, tell us about the Commanders' backfield. It's still JCM in the lead. I can never tell what's going on between Jeremy McNichols and Chris Rodriguez, and frankly, I also just never look into it because I don't really care that much. Can you tell us about the Commanders' backfield?
That's reasonable on your part. So I was trying to find the neutral pass rate for the Commanders last week against the Lions, and here's what I found. They only had 9 plays in neutral game script last week. So I don't know how much you want to read into it, but they passed at a 67% rate in those 9 plays. So maybe not trying to establish it as much as at least I thought. 11 carries for JCM, 6 for C-Rod, and 5 for Jeremy McNichols, who is clearly the best back in the backfield.
Oh, all right.
I will note, Chris Rodriguez left that game in the very beginning of the second half with, I believe, it was a shoulder injury.
Yeah.
It looked like he was running ahead, and they had talked about this before the game. It seemed like he was going to run ahead of Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, and obviously he gets hurt, but he's practicing in full. So I think the backfield is as messy as you could possibly imagine it. And to Denny's point, Jeremy McNichols looks the most explosive.
Speaking of running ahead, it seems like Jalen Wright's ahead of Ollie Gordon second, but this is a situation we thought might matter early in the season and has not mattered at all, as Devin Achane has gone, quote, sicko mode. Sorry. All right. I was just hoping you wouldn't laugh, actually. That's the one I love to make you laugh. I was like, I probably should have not gone back to this well.
What am I supposed to mute my mic?
No, I mean, it was my fault. I shouldn't have even done it again. But
surely I just go yep, sicko mode.
I was like, surely it's not still funny. And it's still funny.
That's good. I mean, at least you didn't say goblin mode.
We got to keep coming up with more modes. The Giants have lots of modes, none of them good. Giants down their head coach. The Packers are down their pride, Kyle, following another embarrassing loss. Boy, have the Packers been embarrassing lately. That latest game was at least against a good team. But are we losing faith in Jordan Love's ability to generate QB1 fantasy outings without Tucker Kraft, even in plus matchups like this one with the Giants?
Yeah, I mean, this year so far, he has been very matchup dependent, and I don't think that's like other quarterbacks who are matchup dependent. I just have this unwavering faith that I've seen this dude make plays that a lot of other quarterbacks can't make. Maybe I'm wrong about that. Maybe LaFleur knows something and he's doing a bit of protecting his quarterback from himself. I don't know. But in the good matchups in general this year, that's where all of his good games have come from. He has 3 QB1 games this year. They have come from, in terms of fantasy points allowed, the number 32 defense, the number 31 defense, and the number 26 defense.
Wow.
He has also played the Bengals, and he did not have a great game against the fantasy-wise, didn't have a great game against the Bengals. So it's not to say he is a surefire QB1 when he plays a bad defense. But in general, that has been the trend this year. When you look at that, the Giants rank 29th in fantasy points allowed to opposing quarterbacks. If you are ever going to play him, I don't think he's locked in the starting lineup. So if you're ever going to play him, it's in a game like this.
Denny, what is the effect of Jameis Winston on this Giants skill core? They thankfully did the right thing. No one needed to see any more Russell Wilson. No one needed to see that. Jameis, we know he's a Joe Flacco for hire, but this is not a very good skill core for Jameis Winston. What do you think is going to happen with him under center?
I mean, I wanted to tout Darius Slayton as like the key to this week, but he's dealing with a hamstring injury. He did play through it. Actually, it's one of those rare times last week where he limped off the field with the hamstring, immediately came back in the game. It was weird. Haven't seen that since like 1999. And yeah, so he's not practicing, so I don't know. They also signed Isaiah Hodges on Thursday as like a depth piece at wide receiver. So I would guess Slayton is out. That stinks. But I mean, look, Jameis, real bad for real football, real good for fantasy. Even if it's not just his production, like his distributing, his pushing it downfield, I think it's really good for like a guy like Theo Johnson as like a seam guy, maybe like Bellinger if you're like crazy desperate tight end. But obviously Wan'Dale Robinson would be the main pass catcher here if Slayton is out. Slate, I really wish Slayton were playing because he's the guy.
He might play. I mean, he's not been ruled out or anything.
No, he's not been ruled out. Yeah,
he might actually play. Wan'Dale I have in the top 24, by the way, which does not feel great. But just Jameis Winston starts, you adjust. That's how it works in fantasy football. Kyle, who are we starting in 12-team leagues from this messy Packers skill core? Messy and getting messier, it feels like.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matthew Golden might play this week. Didn't play last week. He limited in practice on Wednesday, and then I believe back-to-back DNP'd. He was limited in practice on Wednesday this week, and then Matt LaFleur said he was really close to playing last week, which, like, I don't know. I mean, he didn't practice at the end of the week, but whatever. I'll take your word for it and say it seems like he could play this week. He really hasn't done that much this year. He has not been a target earner. I think the only thing his return would do would take off some deep, like wide receiver 5 value for Dontavian Wicks, who earned a pretty respectable 19% target share, 19% of a horrific.
Let's be real. Denny said he wanted Slayton to be the key to the whole slate. It's Dontavian.
It's Wicks.
Yeah, it could very well, by Denny's definition of the key to the whole slate, which is like total wide receiver 5. You pray you catch a long pass. Dontavian Wicks could be that guy if Golden out. Yeah. Golden will run a decent amount of routes if he's active. Otherwise, Romeo Doubs, another player who, I mean, they all had bad weeks last week, except for I think Josh Jacobs, has been clearly the team's wide receiver 1. Even when Golden's out there, even when he's not, even when Luke Musgrave was out there, he was, I believe, marginally out targeting Tucker Kraft. Excuse me, he was marginally out targeting Tucker Kraft. He's the team's wide receiver 1. Like I said, it's a good matchup for Jordan Love. Another player where I actually don't think Romeo Doubs is as matchup dependent because he just leads the team in targets every single week.
That was his first bad game in like 2 months, too.
Yeah, he was
injured.
Back in target earning.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he suffered a chest injury and he didn't play in the second half.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen if he I think
gotta be honest, I was playing FIFA for a lot of the second half. We normally play Tuesdays. I don't normally miss Monday Night Football.
He's practicing.
Okay, I thought he was practicing, so I zoned out on the chest thing. Yeah, full practice. He's fine.
All right, whatever. Denny, Giants backfield. It was Devin Singletary took the lead 2 weeks ago. Tyrone Tracy, thankfully, kind of took over in week 10. Dable's out. They're in evaluation mode. I have to feel like they're going to give Tyrone Tracy like one final long look. Do you agree with that? Does that seem realistic against the Packers?
I guess, I would think that, Singletary is a Daboll guy. Russell Wilson was a Daboll guy. So all the Daboll guys, that scam is up.
They're down horrific.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some Giants beat writer like really be angry about people calling Daboll a Russell Wilson loyalist, but he was.
The beats are always going nuts over like technicalities and stuff like that.
But he started him this year. Yeah. Okay, so yes, he was a Russ loyalist. So Russ is out. I think Singletary could be out. Like I think it could be all Tracy. Tracy last week 14-8 carries advantage over Singletary. I think Tracy's interesting here.
He's interesting. He's risky, but he actually has upside. Devin Singletary has no upside.
No.
You could probably do better in your second flex spot. The fabled second flex spot.
We love a second flex.
We have fully adopted into our nomenclature. I would say understandably so, though. In a matchup with surprisingly seismic AFC playoff implications, Denny Carter, the Broncos host the Chiefs as home underdogs. What kind of Kansas City offense have we seen since Rashee Rice's return? Rashee Rice, since he's been back, or on the season, in his 3-game sample size, he's the wide receiver 1 by average PPR points. I feel like it's made the Chiefs slightly more predictable. Obviously, it's not bad that he's there. Just what are we seeing from the Chiefs offense since his return?
Mahomes, his air yards per attempt has dipped since Rice has returned, which is unfortunate because we were seeing something of like old Mahomes returning, the guy who would throw it downfield. Now, the Broncos kind of invite that from most teams. It's uncertain how they would adjust to Mahomes here, but I have some stats that say that we could see some downfield stuff from Mahomes in this game. Denver has seen the 5th most air yards per game, like total air yards per game this season, and the 3rd highest rate of downfield passes. So hopefully we get that. I guess that would be to Xavier Worthy. I mean, it would not be to Rasheed Rice. Let's just be clear about that.
Tyquan Thornton's still on the team.
Thornton, right? Thornton, Worthy, maybe Hollywood Brown. But yeah, I mean, Rice is seeing a target on like 1/3 of his routes, so it's insane. I think that Pat Surtain II Jr. is not supposed to play. I think
he's been out for a while. Yeah, he hasn't really.
Yeah, they called his injury like a 3 to 4 week injury. I know that was only like 2 weeks ago, so maybe 3 weeks ago. But I don't know.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess that's a good thing. Although I did see some splits where the Broncos secondary is better without him.
No. That's we've tricked the spreadsheet. There's a selection bias going on there. I don't know what it is yet, but I'll get to the bottom of it.
That's the problem. The spreadsheets can be easily tricked. Adam does confirm Pat Surtain II is out this Sunday. Kyle, can you confirm that Bo Nix is just bad now?
I'm ready for that. He's not playing super well. PFF has him graded with their 24th best accurate throw rate. He's 28th in completion percent over expected, but to his credit, he's still a good runner, and specifically, he has the best pressure to sack rate in the NFL. He has handled that aspect of pressure as good as anyone can. It kind of puts him in a similar vein to Caleb Williams, where Caleb has had incredible highs and still just seems to struggle with a lot of down-to-down stuff. If you just look at their like EPA charting per week, they have these insane spikes, both of which I believe they share one against the Cowboys. Like obviously they get a good game against the Cowboys and they destroy them. And the highs have been so high that Bo Nix is still, despite being, I think, among the lesser accurate quarterbacks, he's not horrifically inaccurate, but it's been disappointing. Still top 20 in EPA per play, which is fine. It's again, probably disappointing, but it's not the floor necessarily falling out if you average it all out. The thing is, a lot of it has come against beating up teams like the Cowboys. So I do kind of fear for what it looks like in this game. I still think he's probably on that QB 1-2 border, but I'm more so treating him as very matchup specific instead of, you didn't draft him to be that kind of player.
Yeah, he's been so matchup sensitive. It's not a great matchup in terms of the defense. It is. I feel like this is going to hit the over on 44.5. This feels like a little bit of a sneaky shootout to me.
Guys, I'm completely off Nix in this game. I'm easily starting Brissett over Nix.
No, I have Nix ranked ahead of Brissett, but not by a ton. Denny is the big rankings question here is RJ Harvey. J.K. Dobbins, in classic Sean Payton fashion, we've been getting reports he's going to go on IR or could go on IR for like 5 days. And of course, he's yet to even be ruled out for this game, though. If he does not play, it's RB what for RJ Harvey, or is a Tyler Bidet rug pull incoming?
Yeah, so Sean Payton said this week that RJ Harvey will, quote, have more opportunities when talking about what the team will look like, what the backfield will look like without J.K. Dobbins, who could be headed to IR. We'll see. He also said this about RJ Harvey, quote, he's built to last, and that's important. All right. So we got that going for us. I do want to emphasize how much Dobbins had dominated this Denver backfield. He had accounted for 71% of the team's rushing attempts this season. Like that's a really high mark. Now, the cool stuff near the goal line had been designed for Harvey recently, so that's why you weren't super thrilled about Dobbins. But like those carries have to go somewhere. I would guess that Bidet will be more involved than we want, but Harvey becomes like I think a gotta play flex option here. Because I think he'll be very much involved in the pass game. If he's not, then we guessed wrong, and Sean Payton is just having fun, pulling rugs and whatnot. But Harvey is a good play just based on the volume that he'll see compared to what he has seen.
Listen, some people wonder why my family insists on Daugherty when we could say Daugherty. I just Beatty. It sounded so good at Mizzou. Tyler Beatty. It sounded so good. He never corrected anyone, and the entire time he was at the University of Missouri.
Well, he had one good game.
I just don't understand the bidet.
It's one good game rule in the NFL.
Yes.
You have one good game, and then you get to change your name.
I don't understand Isaiah Pacheco's career fizzle. He's out again, it appears. Cannot stay healthy. Looks like Kareem Hunt season, which of course is the worst season of all against the Denver Broncos. But yeah, Pacheco week to week with their season in a seemingly irreversible downward spiral. Kyle, the Jaguars host the Chiefs as home underdogs. Boy, that's real bad when the Chargers are going coast to coast and you're a home dog. Yikes! This used to be the Chargers going to the East Coast used to be the most guaranteed loss in like NFL history. Not anymore, say the bookmakers. Trevor Lawrence has removed himself from streamer consideration, but can he still support Parker Washington and Jacoby Myers as 12-team league options? I wrote that before Parker Washington became highly questionable with a hamstring injury, Kyle.
He became a little less questionable today. He returned. He was, as you pointed out, he did not practice the hamstring issue on Wednesday. He was back out there. At least he was spotted out there on Thursday, I believe. So it seems like he's going to play, but he wasn't dominating targets last week. He saw a 21% target share in a game in which Jacoby Myers, who is now their team's number 2, assuming Brian Thomas Jr. doesn't return, only ran half of the routes. If you're going to be the team's like clear number 1 receiver in terms of routes and be the most talented receiver on the field for like half of those routes, I would kind of hope for more than 21% target share. Jacoby Myers is going to get ramped up. He's not going to run half the routes this week. Let's say he runs 75%. I think he probably, if he gets to even maybe 65%, he probably just out targets now a banged up Parker Washington. So I would rank Jacoby Myers ahead of Parker Washington. I still think Parker Washington is playable. We're talking about 3rd, 4th, 5th flex spots on this show. We could fit one of those. No, he's a little better than that, to be fair.
I had Jacoby ahead of Parker even before the injury. Now I think he's fairly safely ahead of Parker Washington. Just a team in desperation mode too. Like Jacoby Myers was a desperation trade edition. I feel like they're ready to make him the number 1 option. We also need to keep an eye on Brenton Strange's health. He could be back for this game, further lengthening the skill core. Kyle, Denny has fallen. I actually have no idea where he had to go or why he didn't just ask us to start the show early.
He has a kid goes to jiu-jitsu. I don't remember.
Yeah, we could have started the show early, Denny, but Denny's gone. I was going to ask him about the pecking order in the Chargers skill core, but we know what it is. It's Ladd McConkey. It's probably Arondé Gadsden the second. It's Quentin Johnston. Then somehow a distant 4th, Keenan Allen right now. Gadsden, we were worried about that quad bruise, which it might sound minor, but NFL players do not bruise their quads the same way a civilian does. It can be a pretty serious injury. But he's practicing in full. Does that sound right to you? Ladd Gadsden ahead of Quentin Johnston has been cooking a little more than usual lately, and then Keenan Allen 4th.
Yeah, I do think like Quentin Johnston is back to making it a race on who the team's number 1 receiver is. A 27% target share last week, a really strong number. I still, maybe this is my bias, I drafted a ton of Ladd, would take Ladd over him, but he out-targeted cleanly Ladd last week. Ladd 20%, respectable, usable target share, but they are, I think you can at least say they're vying for the number 1 role. There's not a clear number 1. Gadsden, even if, he's maybe a little bit limited by his injury, he plays tight end and he's awesome. You have to play him. And they weren't treating him sort of like the Browns have treated Harold Fannin. The Browns also have a second starting good tight end, but they're not doing that kind of stuff with him. He just is their full-time starting tight end. You're playing him. Keenan Allen, again, just stuck in this 50 to 60% route rate type of role. Anytime they move out of 11 personnel, he's the guy who comes off the field. I could still see him popping every now and then. It's just hard to pop when you run half the routes some weeks.
I got Arondé Gadsden back into that must-start territory in the rankings, by the way, after he was full on Wednesday. 'Cause I was expecting a week of limited practices, and then hearing he might be limited in the game, but we did not get that. Very, very good news. Kamani Vidal check-in. One of the check-ins is that he played 93% of the snaps against the Steelers last week. The Jarrett Patterson threat, as it were, seems to have faded. Vidal, not hyper-efficient, not scoring a ton because these receivers are really capable of scoring. But Kamani Vidal feels like a top 20 guy still at this point, does he not?
Yeah, last week, to your point, should have taken any notion that he's a committee back off the table. Like maybe Jared Patterson reemerges, but I feel confident saying a guy who just, like you said, 94% of the snaps, 89% of the carries, got over half of the routes. You're starting him, and I agree, top 20 back. They're admittedly, they're on the road, but they're 3-point favorites this week, and he sees almost every single touch out of the backfield. That's quite easily top 20.
So top 20. This game, boy, this is the kind of game in the past that would just be an instant stink bomb, even if there were high expectations, or there are not high expectations for this Chargers-Jaguars matchup. Again, Chargers making that coast-to-coast road trip. It's been a different Chargers team under Jim Harbaugh. So I don't think they'll get caught napping, but a really interesting spot here for for the Chargers and Jaguars. No one's going to accuse the Panthers and Falcons of being a really interesting spot, Kyle. They're two of the toughest watches, and not just American sports, North American sports right now, including Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, things of that nature. They meet up in Atlanta. The Falcons are comfortable favorites at home. Denny, I wrote here, who Denny is gone. Kyle, is there a single?
I hate this. I have the worst Denny Carter note. I'm going to play the role so perfectly. Sorry.
The question is there a single Falcon worth talking about beyond Mr. Bijan Robinson and Drake London?
Look, I didn't do this on purpose, but the spirit of Denny Carter sort of taking me over. Tyler Algier is kind of interesting. He is still getting used as just like the team's goal line back. He has 20 red zone carries this year and 3 attempts inside the 5. Bijan Robinson has 15 red zone attempts, 1 inside the 5. I believe 2 of those inside the 5 attempts came last week specifically for Algier, and he cashed in on both of them. It's not a clear they take Bijan off the field every time they get into the red zone situation, but they do seem to
do it enough.
I know. Yeah, it's not like it's not nearly the same dichotomy that Ken Walker and Zach Charbonnet have, where Zach Charbonnet is the only guy. Like, he is clearly the red zone and specifically the inside the 5 back. It's a little more muddled, but Algier's role in terms of his carries compared to Bijan's, he's the clear RB2. In the red zone, he is not the clear RB2. The numbers would say he's the RB1, specifically in the red zone. In a game where they are favored against a struggling Panthers team at home, he's very playable.
Kyle Pitts, of course, we would be remiss if we did not mention he's in the K-Dot zone, like tight end 8 to 11. I didn't mean to say you wouldn't be starting Kyle Pitts. We just have nothing to say about Kyle Pitts, but he is in the same bucket with Drake London and Bijan. You're playing him. This question's even harder with the Panthers, Kyle. Is there a single Charlotte Panther worth talking about beyond Rico Dowdle and Teteroa McMillan? It's been so frustrating. It's tantalizing. His floor has been fine all year. Just non-existent ceiling. It's because of Bryce Young. So is there anyone else even worth talking about?
No, I mean, I had the same note as you. He's 9th in the NFL in target share. He's 6th in air yard share. This is a guy who was somewhat comped to Drake London playing on the other side of the ball as him in this game. And he is doing that exact same thing where he steps into an ugly situation as a rookie and is just a black hole of targets. But the team sucks and they can't get him to that. Like, he deserves a 9-150-2 game. He has more than earned that type of explosion.
He really has. I'm shocked it has not come yet, even in the really dismal offensive setting.
It's just not going to happen, I don't think. I mean, it will happen one day, but the way Bryce is playing, the team is tepid to throw downfield. I don't think it comes in this game with a low total.
Following a survive and advance Week 10 win over the Vikings, the Ravens will be looking to do the same in Cleveland. We're assuming the weather will be absolutely terrible. I actually haven't looked up the weather this game is. It's just the time of year where it's always bad.
I get texts from people like, we got 3 inches of snow. I'm like, that sucks. I will not be coming home anytime soon.
I actually think it's supposed to be very warm in the wider Midwest this weekend. I don't know if that applies to the shores of Lake Erie, though. But so if we're not expecting a super explosive Ravens, I mean, they're 7.5-point favorites, so the game total is under 40, Kyle. Are we starting any ancillary Ravens, including the tight ends? I hate to put them in that bucket, but like Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely. Does anyone get on the field beyond the stars, Zay Flowers, and a struggling Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I mean, they're 7.5-point favorites. You were still obviously starting Derrick Henry. Lamar returned to practice Thursday. Like, we please just go a week without dumb injury shenanigans. But the fact that he returned to practice, I guess he probably just is going to play. If you ever had a keep it locked to Rotoworld situation, though, do please.
I know. He's rug pulled on Saturday a few times in his career.
Sunday at 11:30 inactives, or I guess maybe if you are worried about like needing to play someone from the London game, get up earlier. But just check on Rotoworld just to be safe. I think he plays. Assuming he plays, it is less clear if Rashad Bateman's going to play. He's maybe dealing with a high ankle sprain, missed Wednesday's practice. I don't really think that does much for the offense in terms of the next man up. I think if anything, the next man up is a bit more 12 personnel, a bit more maybe Isaiah Likely. Likely has only run almost exactly half the routes over the past 2 weeks. That's completely non-viable for fantasy, but he's been targeted on 24% of his routes. If he could just up that route rate to like that 60-65%, he'd be a tight end 2 again. I don't know that that's what they do, though. I think he's barely a tight end 2. Like, you would take the volume-eating, unexciting guys like Kyle Pitts and K. Dotton, like you mentioned, over him because they play football, and Isaiah Likely just is not getting on the field enough. Like I said, maybe changes, maybe doesn't, but I think you are just praying for a touchdown with Mark Andrews. You're praying for more routes with Isaiah Likely, and of course, you were starting Lamar, Zay, Derrick Henry.
That's the Madrid game to you, by the way. And
Rashad Bateman, the London game. Yeah, you're right.
If Rashad Bateman misses, that would actually probably be pretty good for Isaiah Likely. I feel like he's kind of stepped into that downfield role before. It might be worth keeping an eye on. I guess worth keeping an eye on, by the way. Make sure Lamar Jackson makes the team flight. I think there was a week where we expected him to play all week and he didn't take the flight on Saturday. I don't think we're actually worried about him not playing. What is the outlook for Jerry Jeudy and the Browns tight ends in this one? I mean, the Ravens, they weren't a good matchup. They've been a lot better defense since their bye. Dylan Gabriel is not progressing. Do we feel comfortable getting any of these Browns? Because there's 3 potential Browns we could start: Jeudy, Fannin, and David Njoku. Do we feel comfortable getting them into lineups, though?
David Njoku only ran half the routes last week and was just a check down, actually like behind line of scrimmage guy. He's at this point the backup tight end. He is not completely phased out of the offense, not by any means, but he's very much in that Isaiah Likely zone where he is playing more than the average backup tight end. He's nowhere close to a starting tight end type of role. That could change on any given week with the matchup to matchup stuff. But it's like, are you really going to play Dylan Gabriel's backup tight end in the hopes that he gets up to 65% of the routes? You can do that with Isaiah Likely because his quarterback is Lamar Jackson. Don't bother doing that with David Njoku. And Harold Fannon's still in a similar role where he's not going to get 100% of the routes. He's probably not even going to get 90, but he's a great target earner on 75% of the routes. I wish he could do more. He's more of a tight end 10 to 14 than I think he's talented enough to be a top 10 fantasy tight end. Jerry Jeudy continues to earn targets. Like this year, that has not been a massive issue for him. He has a 21% target share, which on a lot of teams, that's fine. That's a flex-worthy player. And I know we got home last week, almost got 20 fantasy points, but I just cannot trust Jerry Jeudy, the combo of Jerry Jeudy plus Dylan Gabriel.
No.
I have a lot of Browns friends, and I didn't get to see this game. I did hear that it was the worst thrown touchdown pass ever to Jerry Jeudy.
It was very bad. I did see that game. Jerry Jeudy had to make a pretty elite end zone in air adjustment, came back to the ball. You don't usually see someone have to come back to the ball in the end zone. Jerry Jeudy had to come back to the ball because it was fluttering so badly. Yeah, your Browns friends were not misleading you in the group chat. It was not a good ball. By the way, David Njoku deserved better. I wish he had been open to a trade because it's kind of sad to see him. He's still way too good to be a backup to somebody. But that's life in Cleveland. Boy, one final game. You'll never guess who it is. The Houston Texans and the Tennessee Titans. Unwatchable, unspeakable football awaits as they're doing battle in Nashville. For the Texans, Kyle, that includes starting Davis Mills again. What's the impact there? And is it Woody Marks season? He seemed to move past Nick Chubb last week, but they fell behind 17-0. This one they could get up 17-0, even as unexplosive as they are. Outlook with Davis Mills starting and Woody Marks coming off one of his best games of his rookie year.
Yeah, I mean, Davis Mills played well last week. It was very Bo Nix versus the Giants coded, where it all came in a flurry of 26 points, plus a rushing touchdown. Of all players, score a rushing touchdown in the fourth quarter to upset the Jags. But look at the game in totality. He played a good football game. I just think in this game, it almost will not matter because you are 7-point favorites against a terrible Titans team, and you have a world-class defense. If I were an offensive coordinator and Davis Mills was my starter, I would take my chips off the table after last week. I'd be very content with what we did, and I would give Woody Marks a lot of touches like they definitely wanted to last week. He got 78% of the snaps, 70% of the carries. He ran over half of the routes. And I believe they even talked about it after the game. I don't know if it was D'Amico Ryans or Nick Haley, the OC, talked about like no more rookie stuff. Like we got to get these guys more involved. I think he said like no more rookies, or like he said they are not rookies anymore. As that was kind of the
I did not hear that quote. That's a very good quote to hear. Actually,
yeah. I'll send it to you after this. The gist of the quote was like, we need to start getting these guys more involved. And we already saw that last week with Woody Marks. So I think in a perfect spot as far as you're going to beat up your 7-point favorites, you're going to beat up the Titans. He's a really good start.
By the way, this line, game total was 39.5, went down to 37.5. The Texans were favored by a touchdown down to 6 after the CJ Stroud news. So it did move on CJ Stroud, but the Texans still very comfortable, convincing favorite. I updated the game total, Kyle, but I didn't update the spread. If you're wondering if you were looking at the sheet, because I did change it now. But Titans, they always get the last word on the show because they're always in the lowest total game of the week, and they're always the worst team. Calvin Ridley might be back. Do we seriously care about any Titans? Calvin Ridley, would it be bad news for Mr. DK, bad news for Elikayu Maynor, Chig Okonkwo, Gunnar Helm? This makes the whole thing more confusing. And speaking of confusing, Tyjae Spears was Tony Pollard. any Titans where you construct a positive case?
Nah, I can't do it. I cannot do it. I mean, Chig is splitting reps with Gunnar Helm. Calvin Ridley could come back to take work off of the table for what early in the year we would have said would probably have been maybe Jameer DK. He was kind of the odd man out to start the year. But his role more overlaps with Alec Iumaner. What are you possibly chasing if you're getting a Titan in your lineup? Maybe in a good matchup. Like we started to see a few weeks ago, Cam Ward start to pop for like garbage time numbers mostly. But look, you'll take garbage time given he couldn't even accomplish that. I don't know if he can get home against garbage time against these Texans.
Yeah, just man. Hopefully, interim coach, such a young team. They had their bye week. You would like to think they'll come out looking a little better. Maybe just a little more confident, maybe a little faster in how they play, but no indication of that heading into the bye for the Titans. It's a team that needs the offseason to get here, needs a new head coach, needs some new ideas. Unfortunately for Cam Ward, we have a new idea for the show. It's kicking Denny out early. So sorry that we finished without Mr. Denny, but he'll be back at 1 p.m. Eastern on Friday for his Stardom Situm Q&A. Kyle, speaking of Stardom Situm, that article will be going live on Friday. My rankings are live. Denny's funnel report will be live tomorrow. His regression files are already up. Kyle's 10 stats coming out of week 10 is already up. So much good stuff on the site. That includes our previous shows this week. A lot of good stuff there too, some deep dives. So for Denny Carter, for Kyle Dvorchak, I'm Patrick Daugherty. Thank you so much for listening. We'll be back with you on Sunday evening.